My phone lit up at 11:47 that night with a bank alert I was never supposed to see. $9,600 charged through a travel agency for Rome, Florence, and Venice. My name is Victoria Whitman. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a senior fraud analyst for a travel payments company in Denver, Colorado, which means I know exactly what unauthorized spending looks like. But nothing prepares you for seeing your own last name attached to it. That morning at breakfast, my father had set down his coffee and smiled like he was announcing good weather. "We've booked a trip to Italy," he said. "Just the five of us. You understand, right?" I looked around the table. 5 of them. Not me. My mother kept buttering her toast. My sister stared into her phone. My brother gave a tiny shrug, like my absence was already settled business. I nodded once and said, "Yeah, okay." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't ask why the daughter who had covered emergency bills, medical deductibles, hotel deposits, and temporary loans for years was suddenly not family enough for Italy. I just went to work, came home, ate dinner quietly, and let them believe I had accepted it. Then the alert came. $9,600. My card, their dream vacation. And when I opened the transaction details, I saw something that made my hands go cold. They had not only used my card, they had saved it as the primary payment method for the entire trip. That was when I stopped being the backup wallet. That was when I shut everything down. Before I tell you what he said, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at that charge until the numbers started to blur. $9,600 was not a small mistake. It was not an accidental click. It was not the kind of charge someone makes without knowing exactly whose card is attached. I opened the travel agency receipt, and there it was in black and white. 5 passengers, 2 hotel deposits, international rail passes, and a private food tour in Rome. I read the names slowly, almost punishing myself with each one. Richard Whitman, Elaine Whitman, Madison Whitman, Ryan Whitman, Brooke Carter. 5 people. My family, plus my brother's fiancée. Not Victoria Whitman, the daughter whose card was apparently good enough to fund the vacation but not good enough to be invited on it. For a few minutes, I did nothing. I listened to the faint noise downstairs, a cabinet closing, my mother laughing at something on television, my father's voice carrying through the hallway like he still owned every room in the house. Then I opened my banking app. My thumb hovered over the freeze button. The old version of me would have walked downstairs, shown them the alert, and waited for an explanation. The old version of me would have accepted some twisted excuse like, "We were going to pay you back," or "You always help with big family things," or "Don't make this ugly." But I had spent too many years translating disrespect into misunderstandings. This was not confusion. This was a choice. So I froze the card. Then I did something else. I changed the password on every shared account connected to my name. The family streaming plan, the hotel rewards profile my father had been using for points, the rental car account, the airport lounge membership, and the emergency family credit line I had opened 2 years earlier after my mother said she needed surgery money. I removed all authorized users. I turned on 2-factor authentication. Then I downloaded every receipt, every Venmo request, every email where my father had written, "Just put it on yours for now, Vic. I'll square up next week." Next week had become next month. Next month had become never. By midnight, I had a folder on my laptop titled Unauthorized Family Charges. I didn't know yet if I would need it, but something in me knew my father would not apologize first. He would attack first. He always did. Around 12:20, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a declined charge, $1,450. Hotel upgrade in Florence. I stared at the word declined, and for the first time that day, I smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile you make when a locked door finally keeps the right people out. Then another decline came through. $620. Luggage delivery service. Then $389. Travel insurance. They were still trying to build their perfect vacation on my money, and they had no idea the foundation had just disappeared. I put my phone face down and walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I expected to feel guilty. I expected that familiar knot in my stomach, the one that always showed up whenever I disappointed my family, but instead I felt clear. Not calm, exactly. Clear. Like a window had opened inside my chest. I knew the next morning would be ugly. I knew my father would demand answers. I knew my mother would call me selfish in that soft, disappointed voice that used to break me faster than shouting ever could. I knew Madison would act shocked, even though she had probably known for weeks that I was being left behind. And Ryan, my brother, would find some way to make it sound like I was ruining his fiancé's first trip to Europe. But this time, I had facts. Not feelings. Not accusations. Facts. Before I slept, I called the bank's fraud department. I used the careful voice I used at work, the one that didn't shake even when clients yelled. I explained that a family member had used my card without permission for international travel purchases. The representative asked whether I wanted to file a dispute. I looked toward my bedroom door, hearing my father's laugh drift up the stairs. "Yes," I said, "and I want the card replaced." When the call ended, I did not cry. I did not pace. I sat there in the dark and realized something painful but useful. Love without respect can become a payment plan you never agreed to. And my family had been charging interest for years. The next morning, breakfast looked almost normal at first. My father sat at the head of the table in his navy robe, scrolling through his phone with the serious expression he wore when pretending to manage important things. My mother poured coffee into the mug that said, "Best Mom Ever," a gift I had bought her 3 Mother's Days ago. Madison came in wearing sunglasses indoors, talking about what she was packing for the Italian light, as if sunlight changed its nationality once you cross the Atlantic. Ryan and Brooke arrived 10 minutes later with a garment bag and 2 rolling suitcases, because they were staying over before the airport run. I sat at the far end of the table with my tea untouched. Nobody asked why I was quiet. That was one of the benefits of being the reliable one. People mistook your silence for permission. Then my father frowned at his phone. Not a dramatic frown. A small one. The first crack. He tapped the screen again. Then again. My mother noticed. "Richard?" she asked. "The hotel says the upgrade didn't process," he said. "Probably a security hold." Ryan groaned. "Dad, you said everything was handled." My father shot him a look. "It is handled." I took one slow sip of tea. Brooke glanced between them and asked, "Do we still have the Rome tour? Because I posted about it already." Madison laughed too loudly. "It's just a card thing. Dad will fix it." My father opened another email. His jaw tightened. "The travel agency says the final balance failed." Nobody looked at me yet. Not fully. They were circling the truth, trying not to step on it. My mother set her coffee down. "What card did you use?" My father did not answer right away. That silence did more than any confession could have done. Ryan looked up. Madison stopped laughing. Brooke's face changed first, because she was the outsider, and outsiders often see family ugliness before family members admit it. "Richard," my mother said again, quieter now. "What card did you use?" My father cleared his throat. "The family card." I almost laughed. Family card. That was what he called my credit card when he needed it and my personal expense when the bill came due. I placed my mug down gently. There is no family card. Every head turned toward me. My father's eyes narrowed. Victoria, not now. Actually, I said, now seems like the exact time. Madison leaned back in her chair. Wait, was it your card? I looked at her. You didn't know? Her mouth opened, then closed. That was answer enough. Ryan rubbed his forehead. Come on, Vic, don't make this a whole thing. I turned to him. A whole thing is excluding someone from a trip and using her card to pay for it. Brooke whispered. You weren't invited? The room went quiet in a way that finally felt honest. My father pushed his chair back. Nobody used anything maliciously. You have helped with family travel before. When I was going, I said, or when I agreed. We were going to reimburse you. He snapped. When? I asked. Before or after Florence? His face flushed. My mother stepped in with that soft, dangerous voice. Victoria, your father has been under stress. This trip means a lot to everyone. Could you please not embarrass him in front of Brooke? That was the moment I realized they were not upset because they had stolen from me. They were upset because I had made the theft inconvenient. I looked at Brooke, then at my mother. I'm not embarrassing him. The decline charges are. Madison said, You froze it, didn't you? I nodded. Yes. Ryan stood up. Are you serious? We leave tomorrow. Not on my card, I said. My father slammed his palm onto the table. The silverware jumped. You will unfreeze it right now. For years, that tone had worked on me. It had made me apologize when I had done nothing wrong. It had made me transfer money I needed for rent. It had made me sit quietly while my siblings enjoyed things I paid for. But that morning, the tone hit something solid and bounced off. No, I said. One word. No explanation attached. My father stared like he had heard me speak another language. Excuse me? No, I repeated. I filed a dispute. I removed every authorized user. I changed the passwords. Any charge you try from this point on will fail. Madison's face went pale. Ryan cursed under his breath. Brooke slowly lowered herself into a chair. My mother pressed her fingers to her temple, but I noticed she did not ask if I was okay. She did not ask how long I had known. She did not ask whether I felt hurt that they had planned Italy without me. She only asked, How could you do this to us? And that question told me everything. Not, How could we do this to you? Not, How did this happen? Not, We're sorry. Just, How could you interrupt the benefits of your own exploitation? My father reached for his phone. I'm calling the bank. Go ahead, I said. They already know. He paused. For the first time in my life, I saw him realize that I had moved faster than him. What did you tell them? The truth. The room tightened around that word. Truth. It sounded almost rude in that house. My father lowered his voice. Victoria, you need to be very careful. I am, I said. That's why I put everything in writing. I stood, picked up my laptop bag, and looked at all 5 of them. Enjoy breakfast. I have work. My mother called after me. You're walking away from your family? I stopped at the doorway. No, I said without turning around. I'm walking away from the bill. Then I left. By the time I reached the office, my phone had 31 missed calls. My father called 11 times. My mother called 7. Madison sent 6 texts, each one more dramatic than the last. Ryan sent one message that said, You better fix this before Brooke's parents hear about it. That was almost funny, because apparently Brooke's parents' opinion mattered more than my bank account. I ignored all of them and opened my work laptop. I was supposed to spend the morning reviewing suspicious travel claims from corporate clients, but the irony was so sharp I could barely focus. I investigated strangers who abused payment systems for a living, and somehow I had missed the fraud sitting across from me at breakfast. At 10:14, I received an email from the travel agency with the subject line, Urgent Payment Issue, Whitman, Italy Package. Because the booking had been made using my email years earlier for a family trip to San Diego, their system still listed me as the financial contact. My father had not even bothered to change that. I opened the email and saw the full itinerary. Business class upgrades for my parents, boutique hotels, private transfers, a vineyard lunch near Florence, a gondola ride in Venice, a Vatican early access tour. Not emergency travel. Not a necessary family event. Luxury. Paid for with a card they never had permission to use. I forwarded the email to my personal folder and replied with one sentence. I did not authorize this purchase and will not be responsible for any remaining balance. Then I called the agency directly. The woman on the line, Patricia, sounded relieved to hear from me. Ms. Whitman, thank you for calling. We've been trying to confirm payment authorization. Your father told us you approved the family charge. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not a misunderstanding. A lie with my name on it. I did not approve it, I said. Patricia went quiet for a second, then shifted into a professional tone. Understood. I'll update the file. Without a valid payment method, the hotel holds and guided tours may be released within 24 hours. Please send that in writing. Of course. After the call, I walked into the break room and found my closest friend, Natalie Brooks, microwaving soup. Natalie was one of the few people who knew pieces of my family situation, but not all of it. She took one look at my face and said, "Who died?" "My patients," I said. She followed me into a small conference room, and I told her everything. The breakfast announcement, the bank alert, the card freeze, the Italy itinerary, the lie. Natalie listened without interrupting, which was why I trusted her. When I finished, she did not say, "But they're your family." She did not say, "Maybe they meant well." She said, "Victoria, they didn't just exclude you, they budgeted you in." That sentence landed harder than I expected. They budgeted me in, not as a daughter, as a payment method. Natalie leaned forward. "Do you have copies of everything?" I nodded. Receipts, emails, declined charges, bank dispute reference. Good. Don't argue by emotion, argue by documentation. That was why Natalie was the kind of friend everyone needed. She did not just comfort me, she reminded me who I was. Around noon, my father sent a text. "Call me before you destroy this family over money." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "You planned a family trip without me and used my card to pay for it. The destruction did not start with my boundary." He did not respond for 8 minutes. Then he sent, "You are being childish." I sent him a screenshot of the $9,600 charge. Then a screenshot of Patricia's email confirming he had claimed I approved it. Then I wrote, "Do not contact my bank, my employer, or the travel agency pretending to have my authorization. Everything is documented." The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, he wrote, "We will discuss this at home." I replied, "No. We will discuss it at 6 p.m. with everyone present, including Brooke, because her name is on a trip she deserves to know the truth about." That was the first time I chose the room instead of being cornered by it. At 5:40, I drove home with my hands steady on the wheel. The sky over Denver was turning gold behind the mountains, but I barely noticed. I was not rehearsing a speech. I was reminding myself not to shrink. When I walked into the house, everyone was already in the living room. My father stood by the fireplace. My mother sat rigidly on the couch. Madison looked furious. Ryan avoided my eyes. Brooke looked like someone who had been told 3 different versions of the same story and trusted none of them. I set my laptop on the coffee table and connected it to the television. My father barked, "What do you think you're doing?" I looked at him and said, "Showing the receipt." The television screen lit up with the travel agency invoice, large enough for everyone in the room to read. For once, my father did not fill the silence. I clicked to the first page. 5 passengers, I said. Rome, Florence, Venice. Total package cost, $18,740. Amount already charged to my card, $9,600. Remaining balance attempted last night and declined. Madison folded her arms. This is humiliating. Yes, I said. Being used is humiliating. She looked away. My mother whispered, "Victoria, please don't do this like a business presentation." "That's exactly what this is," I said. "Because every time I tried to discuss family with you, you turned it into a bill." My father stepped forward. "Enough." I clicked to the next slide. It was not really a slide. It was a folder of receipts I had exported into a simple timeline. 2 years ago, I paid $4,200 toward the emergency roof repair. Dad said he would repay half. He didn't. Last year, I paid $2,800 for Madison's moving expenses after she said her landlord was threatening fees. No repayment. 6 months ago, I covered Ryan's truck repair because Mom said he might lose his job. No repayment. 3 months ago, I paid for Mom's specialist appointment and medication because Dad said insurance was delayed. No repayment. And now Italy. Ryan snapped, "Nobody asked you to make a spreadsheet." I turned to him. "You asked me to make payments. The spreadsheet made itself." Brooke covered her mouth, and I could not tell whether she was shocked, embarrassed, or both. My father pointed at the screen. "You kept records on your own family?" "Yes," I said, "because my own family kept forgetting what they owed." My mother's eyes filled with tears, but I had learned that tears could be real and still be used as a shield. "We never meant to make you feel unwanted," she said. "You announced Italy as just the 5 of us at breakfast," I said. "There are 6 people in this room." She looked down at her hands. Madison finally spoke, softer this time. "I thought you didn't want to go." I stared at her. "Did anyone ask me?" She did not answer. "That's what I thought." My father's voice dropped into the tone he used when he wanted control back. "Victoria, you're making this sound much worse than it is. We were going to pay you back after the trip." "With what money?" I asked. "Your card was declined for the balance. The agency confirmed you did not have another payment method ready." Brooke turned toward Ryan. "You told me your parents paid for everything." Ryan's face reddened. "I thought they did." "They tried," I said, "with my card." Brooke stood up slowly. "Were you all just going to let me walk through airports and hotels while she paid for a trip she wasn't invited on?" Madison muttered. "It wasn't like that." Brooke looked at her. "It is exactly like that." For the first time that evening, the pressure shifted away from me. The outsider in the room had said what the family refused to say. My father turned on her. "Brooke, this is family business." She laughed once, humorless. "I'm marrying into this family. I think I should know whether theft is considered business." Ryan said, "Don't call it that." I said, "Unauthorized use of a card is unauthorized use of a card. You can choose a softer word if it helps you sleep." My father's face hardened. "Are you threatening us legally?" "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself financially. The bank will decide the rest." My mother stood then, her voice trembling. "Please, cancel the dispute. We'll figure it out. Your father is proud. He handled it badly. But if this trip collapses, everyone will know." There it was. Not, "You were hurt." Not, We betrayed your trust. Everyone will know. That was what scared them. Exposure, not wrongdoing. I closed the laptop halfway. Then maybe everyone should know less about your vacation plans and more about how you paid for them. Madison whispered, "That's cruel." "No," I said. "Cruel is sitting across from me at breakfast and asking me to understand why I don't belong, while my card is already carrying your luggage." Brooke picked up her purse. Ryan grabbed her wrist, not roughly, but desperately. "Where are you going?" She pulled away. "To call my parents and tell them the Italy trip might not happen because apparently your family tried to charge it to your sister." Ryan looked as if the floor had dropped under him. My father said, "Nobody leaves until this is resolved." I looked at him. "It is resolved. My card is closed. The dispute is filed. The agency has been notified. The shared accounts are locked. If you want Italy, you'll need to pay for it yourselves." My mother's tears finally spilled. "After everything we've done for you?" That sentence almost worked. It touched the old wound, the child in me who still wanted approval. But then I looked at the screen still showing years of payments and realized something. They had done many things for me when I was young. Yes. They had raised me, fed me, driven me to school, bought me winter coats. But parenthood was not a loan that matured when the child became useful. I took a breath. Raising me was your responsibility. Funding your lifestyle is not mine. Nobody spoke. My father looked at me like he did not recognize me. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he had never met the version of me who could say no without apologizing. I packed my laptop into my bag. At the door, my mother said, "If you leave now, don't expect this family to forgive you." I looked back. I'm not the one who needs forgiveness tonight. Then I walked out. Not to my bedroom, not to hide, but out of the house. I spent that night at Natalie's apartment on her couch, wrapped in a blanket while my phone buzzed itself nearly dead on the coffee table. Natalie made tea and said nothing for a while, which was exactly what I needed. Around midnight, Brooke texted me. I expected anger. Instead, she wrote, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. Ryan says your family will fix it tomorrow, but I don't want to be part of something dishonest. Are you okay?" I stared at those words longer than I expected. Someone who had known me less than a year had asked the question my own family had avoided all day. "Are you okay?" I wrote back, "Not really, but I will be." The next morning, the first collapse happened at 8:06. The travel agency emailed that without verified payment, the hotel holds in Rome and Florence had been released. At 9:20, the private Vatican tour was canceled. At 10:15, the Venice apartment deposit failed and the reservation went back on the market. By noon, my father sent one sentence, "You have ruined everything." I looked at it and felt something inside me finally detach. Not break. Detach. There is a difference. Breaking hurts because something is torn from you. Detaching is when you set down something you were never meant to carry. I replied, "No, I stopped paying for everything." He called immediately. I let it ring. Then he texted, "Your mother is crying." I replied, "So was I when I realized you used my card. Nobody checked on me." He did not answer that. By afternoon, the second collapse began. Ryan called me, and this time I answered because I wanted to hear what desperation sounded like when it ran out of insults. "Vic," he said, "Brooke's parents are asking questions." "Then answer them." "They think this is some kind of financial mess." "It is." He exhaled sharply. "You don't understand. This makes me look bad." I almost laughed. "Ryan, that is the most honest thing anyone in this family has said." He lowered his voice. "Can you just tell Brooke it was a misunderstanding?" "No." "One sentence, Victoria. You don't even have to unfreeze the card. Just say Dad had permission and the bank overreacted." I stood in Natalie's kitchen, looking out at the street below. amazed at how naturally the lie came to him. You want me to lie so your fiancé's parents don't question your family? I want you to stop acting like you're better than us. I'm not better than you, I said. I'm just not available anymore. He hung up. An hour later, Madison called. I nearly ignored her, but something made me answer. She was crying, but not like my mother cried. Madison cried angrily, like the tears offended her. Do you know Dad asked me to put the remaining balance on my card? She said. And I don't have that kind of limit. I stayed quiet. He said I should call and ask for an increase because I'm the one who wanted Italy most. Her voice cracked. He said you were always difficult, but at least you were useful. There it was. The sentence that should have destroyed me. Instead, it confirmed the diagnosis. Useful, that was the role. Not loved. Not included. Useful. Madison whispered, Did he really say the same kind of things to you? For years, I said. She started crying harder. I did not comfort her immediately. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I had spent my entire life rushing to soften consequences for people who never softened theirs for me. Finally, I said, Madison, I'm sorry he turned on you, but I need you to understand something. This is what happens when the person being used steps away. The people doing the using look for someone else. She sniffed. So, what am I supposed to do? Say no. She laughed bitterly. You make it sound easy. It wasn't easy, I said. It was just necessary. That night, I went back to the house with Natalie waiting in the car outside. I did not go to argue. I went to collect documents, my passport, and the few things I would need while I decided where to stay permanently. My mother met me in the hallway. She looked smaller somehow, not because she had changed, but because I had stopped seeing her disappointment as a verdict. Victoria, she said, your father is under a terrible amount of pressure. I slipped my passport into my bag. He created the pressure. You could have handled this privately. I turned to her. I did. I froze my card privately. I filed the dispute privately. I contacted the agency privately. He made it public by lying to everyone. Her lips pressed together. You sound so cold. No, I said. I sound documented. My father appeared at the end of the hallway. He looked tired, but not humbled. That mattered. Some people are exhausted by consequences and still not sorry for their actions. You're really going to walk away over one trip? He asked. No, I said. I'm walking away because one trip showed me the truth. He folded his arms. And what truth is that? I looked him straight in the eyes. That you did not forget to invite me. You remembered my card just fine. The hallway went silent. My mother looked away first. My father didn't speak. I walked past him into my room, packed one suitcase, and left with my passport in the front pocket. For the first time, I did not wait for anyone to stop me kindly. They only knew how to stop me with guilt, and guilt no longer had my address. The final collapse happened on the second day, just under 48 hours after I froze the card. Brooke canceled her participation entirely. Her parents called Ryan and told him they were concerned about financial transparency, which was polite language for, we are not handing our daughter to a family that lies about money. Madison refused to apply for a credit limit increase. My mother tried to book cheaper hotels. But without the deposits and with international rates spiking, the new total was higher than the original package. My father called 2 relatives for help. One said no. The other asked why he was going to Italy if he could not afford it. That question did what my pain never could. It embarrassed him. By evening, the Italy trip was officially canceled. Not postponed. Canceled. The group chat that had once been full of passport reminders and packing lists became a battlefield of blame. Ryan blamed my father. Madison blamed Ryan for inviting Brooke before the trip was paid. My mother blamed bad timing. My father blamed me until Brooke finally wrote one message that ended the conversation. The trip did not collapse because Victoria protected her card. It collapsed because all of you built it on money that wasn't yours. Nobody responded after that. I read the message twice, not because I needed Brooke to defend me, but because truth sounds different when someone outside the family says it. The next morning, I met my father at a small coffee shop near Union Station. I chose a public place because private rooms had always favored the loudest person. He arrived 10 minutes late, wearing the same expression he used when dealing with customer service people he considered beneath him. "I'm here," he said, sitting down. "Say what you need to say." I had brought one envelope. Inside was a printed summary of every outstanding amount connected to my card, every account I had closed, and a simple boundary letter. I slid it across the table. "I'm not asking you to repay everything today," I said, "but I am separating my finances from the family permanently. You will not use my name, card, email, rewards accounts, address, or employment information for any purchase, application, reservation, or loan. If anyone does, I'll report it immediately." His face tightened. "You'd report your own father?" "I already reported an unauthorized charge," I said. "The title of the person who did it does not change the action." He looked out the window. For a second, I thought he might finally say he was sorry. Not because he had been caught. Not because Italy collapsed. Sorry because he understood what he had done to me. Instead, he said, "You've changed." I nodded. "I have. You used to care about this family." That one hurt. I won't pretend it didn't. But pain did not mean he was right. I cared so much that I confused being needed with being loved. Hugh. He looked back at me then, and for the first time, he had no quick reply. I continued, "I'm not cutting you off because I hate you. I'm cutting off the part of this relationship where access to me means access to my money." He tapped the envelope with one finger. "Your mother thinks you're punishing us. Mom thinks any boundary that inconveniences her is punishment." His mouth tightened. "That's unfair." So is Italy. We sat there in silence while commuters moved around us with coffees and laptop bags, living ordinary lives that had nothing to do with the little wreckage at our table. Finally, my father stood. "I don't know when your mother will be ready to speak to you." I picked up my cup. "That's her choice." "And if we don't invite you for Thanksgiving?" I smiled, not because it was funny, but because the threat had become so small. "Then I won't have to bring my card." He left without hugging me, without apologizing, without taking the envelope. But he had heard me, and that was enough for that day. 2 weeks later, I signed a lease for a one-bedroom apartment near the river. It wasn't fancy. The kitchen was small, and the bedroom window faced a brick wall, but every bill had my name on it and only my name. I bought a cheap dining table, a new set of towels, and a lockbox for my important documents. Natalie helped me carry boxes upstairs, and when we finally sat on the floor eating takeout from paper containers, she raised her soda can and said, "To not being budgeted in." I laughed for the first time in what felt like months. A month after that, Madison asked to meet. I almost said no, but curiosity won. We walked through a park on a cold Saturday morning, both of us with our hands shoved into our coat pockets. She apologized, not perfectly, not dramatically, but specifically. She said she knew about Italy before breakfast. She said she had assumed I would get over it because I always did. She said watching Dad turn to her for money had made her understand things she had not wanted to see. I listened. Then I told her forgiveness was possible, but access was not automatic. She nodded. That was the first honest conversation we had ever had. Ryan did not apologize. My mother sent a birthday card with no money inside and no guilt written between the lines, which was progress in its own strange way. My father stayed quiet for months, Then one day, he mailed me a check for $500 with a note that said, "First payment." No apology, no explanation, just those two words. I deposited it. Not because $500 fixed anything, but because accountability has to start somewhere, even when it arrives late and badly dressed. I never went to Italy with them. But the following spring, I booked a solo trip to Portugal using points from a card only I controlled. When the bank alert came through, I smiled. This time, the charge was mine. The choice was mine. The seat was mine. And nobody at breakfast had to decide whether I belonged. Looking back, I learned something I wish I had understood earlier. Some families do not realize they have turned you into a resource until the resource runs out. They may call your boundary selfish because they benefited from your silence. They may call your records cruel because your memory threatens their version of events. But love that requires you to disappear, pay, and stay quiet is not love at its healthiest. Sometimes the most educational lesson life gives you is financial literacy wrapped inside emotional pain. Keep records, protect your accounts, separate generosity from obligation, and never let guilt become someone else's password. If you are the person always expected to understand, to cover, to forgive, to pay, ask yourself one question before you say yes again. Would they still call you family if you stopped being useful? And if you were Victoria, would you forgive them? Or would you walk away without looking back? Let me know in the comments.